Hello students, welcome to my lecture series on reinforced concrete structures. In this class, I am going to discuss about step-by-step procedure for designing singly reinforced beams. Right. The outcomes of today's class is, on completion of this class, you will be able to know what is the design procedure for singly reinforced beam by considering all aspects like consideration of shear design, consideration of development length and anchorage and all. Right. So let me recall what are the things we have discussed in last class. In the last class, we discussed about bond stress and development length. Based on those bond stress, we have calculated what is the formula for development length. So let me discuss first what is the bond stress is. As a bond stress is defined as the shear force per unit nominal surface area of a reinforcement of a bar acting parallel to the bar at an interface between the bars and surrounding concrete. That means it is stress induced at the interface of the steel and concrete, which is acting parallel to the reinforcing bar. Right? By means of this bond stress, the loads will transfer to the concrete. So we have another concept called development length. It is a minimum length of the bar which must be embedded into the concrete beyond the section to develop its full strength. That means, suppose a bar is subjected to a tensile force. In order to not to come out that bar, that means not to slip out that bar from the concrete section, then we must insert some length of the bar into the support. That length is nothing but called a development, that is called a development length. Over that length, this bond stress will be developed. This bond stress will transfer the force into the concrete, so that your steel rod will not come out due to application of any kind of tensile forces. So this development length can be calculated by using the formula. It is represented with a LD. LD is greater than or equal to 0.87 Fy phi by 4 tau BD. Here Fy is the yield strength of a steel, phi is the diameter of the bar, tau BD is the bond stress, and this is basically depends upon which type of reinforcing bar you are using, like Fe415 or Fe250, and in which zone of a member you are placing this reinforcement, that is a compression zone or tension zone. Based on that, you earn grade of mostly on grade of concrete. The tau BD values depends upon the majorly and the grade of concrete. So based on that, we have to calculate what is the tau BD is. After knowing the tau BD, grade of steel and diameter of bar, we can calculate what is the LD, development length is, and the calculated development length should be greater than the value obtained from this. Right? LD should be greater than this value. Right? Now with this background knowledge, let me start today's lecture, that is design procedure for singly reinforced beams. So these are things already we have discussed in your design of singly reinforced beam part 1, part 2 and shear reinforced design part 1, part 2, part 3. I had done combinedly all together here and summarize one lecture on that. So that is, now I can say this is a complete design procedure for a singly reinforced beams by considering all aspects. So by knowing all these steps, one can design by its own a singly reinforced rectangular beam or any cantilever beam also. Right? Say the first step would be the calculation of overall depth. Here this will be assumed, that is d equal to L by 12 to L by 15. So there is no fundamental thumb rules are there. These values are based on the experiences of designers. Generally this will be adopted like this, that is L by 12 to L by 15. Here L is the effective length of the beam. After knowing the overall depth of the beam, we can calculate what is the width of the beam. Generally this width of the beam will be provided, that is half of the overall depth of the beam to the 1/3 of overall depth of the beam. This is also based on the experience we have to provide. Whether these assumed values are sufficient or not, those things we can check later steps. Whether these are okay, then we go ahead with this, or not okay, we can change this value and we can assume another value. Like that we'll do in designs, right? So these are based on the assumptions purely, that is d equal to L by 12 to L by 15 for calculating overall depth, and width is calculating width of the beam, that is b equal to 1 by 2 of overall depth to 1 third of overall depth. Then step third will be calculate the effective width of the beam. Generally, it is not effective width, sorry, effective depth. Again, please correct it, students. Effective depth of the beam. This effective depth of the beam can be calculated. That is overall depth minus effective cover. Here, if we not given the cover, and if you in problem, he may mention or may not mention the problem cover, that you can assume. But when you are designing originally a singly reinforced beam, then you have to choose a cover from the code book, and code book has given, that is IS 4562. According to the IS 456 2000, you have to choose the cover, and under what, and this cover will be depends upon the some exposure conditions like mild, moderate, severe and extreme severe conditions. Those under which condition you are doing concreting, based on that you have to choose the cover for this. So from that you can calculate small d is equal to capital D minus effective cover or cover, and this value, if you deduct this effective cover minus the overall depth of the beam, then we will get what is the effective depth of the beam is. Please student, make it correct. They calculate the effective depth of the beam here instead of width of the beam. Next, and step number 4 is a crucial step, that is load calculation. Based on these loads only, we can design the sections of a member. As we know that design means determining the cross section of member and providing what amount of steel reinforcement we can provide in the member. That is nothing but design. Finally, we can calculate those three values only, that is B, D and the AST. Right? To calculate those values, here important parameter is very important parameter is calculation of loads. In that we have generally so many kinds of loads, and generally we will taking two kinds of load here, dead loads and live loads. Generally dead loads are calculated are B, D into unit weight of RCC member, and this dead load also known as the self weight of the member, that you all know. That B is nothing but a width of the beam, capital D is overall depth, and a unit weight of concrete RCC is in kilonewton per meter. Generally we can take it as a 25 kilonewton per meter cube. Unit weight of RCC is 25 kilonewton per meter cube, but this dead load will comes in the units of kilonewton per meter. Don't confuse with it. This units of this RCC is kilonewton per meter cube, and units of loads are self weight of the beam in terms of kilonewton per meter. So how you write this value means, here the width units of B is meters, units of D is also meter, and units of RCC unit weight is kilonewton per meter cube. Here m into m, meter m square, and already we have a in terms of by meter cube. This meter square and this meter cube will get cancelled. Finally the units arrived is kilonewton per meter cube. This kilonewton per meter cubes is the units for dead loads. Right? Similarly, here another kind of load we have is live load. I can say it is an imposed load also. This can be taken from the IS 875 part 2, right? And these two loads are add together, then we get the total load which is coming on the member, which we are going to design. That the total load W equal to dead load plus live load, and this is the total load which is actually there. But in future we may get additional load on that loads also has to bear the member which we are designing. For that, what we are doing, we have to enhance the actual design load by providing some sort of partial factor of safety, that is the combination of dead load and live loads. We have a partial factor of safety, that is 1.5 according to the limit state of collapse in flexure condition. So from that we can calculate what is the factor load. I can say it is a ultimate load also. So factor load generally designated as a W is equal to 1.5 times total load. Right. After calculating the design load, based on the design loads, we have to calculate what are the design moments are. So ultimately, our section has to resist the moments because of applied load. So that moments we have to calculate how much moment has to restrict that amount we have to calculate. So here we have two kinds of beams, only simply supported beam and cantilever beam. If you are designing a simply supported beam with a uniformly distributed load of W, then design moment will be mu equal to WL square by 8. So this already we know from our concepts of strength of materials. When you are talking about shear force and bending moment, for that it is a standard formula. When a simply supported beam subjected to UDL throughout, then the maximum bending moment will occur at the center of the beam, that equal to WL square by 8. but here we are designing, means we are considering design load, so we have to calculate a design bending moment, that is the ultimate bending moment, mu equal to, by considering design load, that is W L square by 8. And similarly we have a cantilever beam with uniformly distributed load. For that we can calculate mu equal to W L square by 2. Generally for a, the cantilever beam means one end is fixed, another end is free. When a beam is subjected to uniformly UDL over it, then the maximum bending moment will occur at the free end. That bending moment will be a WL square by 2. Like that we can calculate. So our design section has to resist this amount of bending moment when you are using a simply supported beam. If you are designing a cantilever beam, this amount of maximum bending moment has to resist by that particular beam what we are going to design as a singly reinforced beam. Right. Next, a calculation of limiting moment of resistance. So what do you mean by limiting moment of resistance? So the limiting moment of resistance nothing but the moment of resistance calculated with respect to limiting depth of neutral axis. The limiting moment of resistance is defined as the moment of resistance calculated with respect to the limiting depth of neutral axis. I can say that is the maximum depth of neutral axis, and according to that, if you calculate the moment of resistance, then I can say limiting moment of resistance or the maximum moment of resistance or ultimate moment of resistance. Right? What is the purpose of calculating this limiting moment of resistance in design of a singly reinforced beams? So that is the purpose is to decide the type of section. Generally we have a three type of section, this based on their failure modes. One is a balanced section, under reinforced section, and over reinforced section. So based on that obtained bending moment, ultimate bending moment value, and the limiting moment of resistance, we can, the relation exists between those two. We can decide what type of section it is. Say if your ultimate or the factored bending moment is equal to the limiting moment of resistance, then I can say it is balanced section. If your factored bending moment is less than limiting moment of resistance, then I can say it is a under reinforced section. And finally, if your factored or ultimate bending moment is greater than limiting moment of resistance, then I can say it is a over reinforced section. Right. As per the code IS 456-2000, the limiting moment of resistance can be calculated from the below table. That is, depends upon the grid. This formula, ready-made formula there. That is, if you know that grid of concrete and cross-sectional dimensions and grid of steel, you can directly calculate what is the limiting moment of resistance is. Say for Fe250 steel, it is 0.148 FCK BD square, and is Fe415 steel, it is 0.138 FCK BD square, and Fe500 steel, that is 0.133 FCK BD square. You know, in this, FCK is the characteristic compressive strength of a concrete, B is the width of the beam, and small d is the effective depth of the beam. After knowing this, by knowing the grade of steel, you can calculate directly what is the limiting moment of resistance is. And already you have calculated what is the MU, factored bending moment. And comparing these values and already calculated factored bending moment value, from that we can decide what type of beam it is. Beam section it is actually. Right. After knowing the type of beam section, we have to calculate what is the required effective depth. So to resist the particular bending moment what we have calculated in that our previous slides, according to that we have to calculate what minimum depth required to resist this bending moment in the section. So for this we have to equate the maximum bending moment to the limiting moment of resistance of a section, that is mu equal to mu limit. Here mu is equal to mu limit can be calculated using formula that K into FCK BD square. Here K is depends upon the grade of steel, right? That is, so here is given that Fe, already we have discussed that Fe250 that is 0.148, and for Fe415 it is 0.138, and Fe500 it is 0.133. Right, and based on the grid of steel, this value will be calculated. Right, if you rearrange the term, if you want from this formula, what do you want? I want from effective depth required, that equal to under root mu by K into FCKB. Already I have calculated, I can calculate the mu value from my previous slide, and I know what is the K value, that is based on the grade of steel, and FCK is characteristic compressive strength of a concrete, and B is the width of the beam. From that I can calculate what is the required effective depth is. Now I will compare. Already I have assumed one depth in my second step, that is a effective depth or second step or third step, right? That value of depth will be compared with a required depth of beam. That is, if this required depth is less than the assumed value of effective depth, then we can go for further step. If not, what is the minimum depth we have required calculated, that value we can choose for a further design of the member, right? This is statement shows that the meaning of that what I explained earlier. If the effective depth required is less than the provided, use provided depth and go for further steps. If not, then what we'll do, whatever the minimum depth of value we got, according to that we start designing our member, right? Now step number 8, calculation of area of reinforcement. Now up to step number 7, what we have calculated? We have calculated B and D. Width of the beam we have calculated, effective depth of the beam we have calculated. One more parameter we need to calculate is area of tension reinforcement in the beam. So that can be calculated by using these two formulas which are provided in the IS 456-2000, that is ME equal to 0.87 Fy AST into D into 1 minus Fy AST by BD into FCK. You know, Fy the yield strength of the concrete, AST is the area of tension reinforcement that we have to calculate now, and D is effective depth and B is the width of the beam. FCK is a characteristic compressive strength of a concrete, right? If you substitute the values other than this AST, and in this we know MU, Fy, D and B, FCK, only unknown parameter is AST. From this we can calculate AST. So only a disadvantage with this calculation AST by using this formula is, after substituting that we will get a quadratic equation. By solving that quadratic equation, little bit difficult compared to this formula or ready-made formula what we have here. From this formula we can directly calculate what is AST value is, and by using this formula we can calculate AST, but we will get the quadratic equation. For that quadratic equation we will get two factors. The positive factor will be considered as the minimum value, will consider as a AST value, right? To avoid that little bit of calculation, just simply substitute the values FCK, Fy, Mu, FCK, BD value in this equation. Directly straight away we will get the AST, right? So from both the equation we will get the same answer only. This is a modified version of this. This AST calculation is modified version of this equation only, nothing changed. We will get the same answer. Alright, right, now our design is over. Whether designed dimensions are safe against or they are safe or not in the practical purpose, that we have to check by using some check given by our IS 456-2000. Say, let me check first about minimum reinforcement criteria. So what is the minimum reinforcement will be provided in the in the reinforcing beam? So according to the class number 26.5.1.1a of IS 456-2000, the minimum area of tension reinforcement shall be not less than that given by the following, that is AS by BD is equal to 0.85 Fy, and here AS is minimum area of tension reinforcement, B is the breadth of the beam, D is the effective depth of the beam, Fy is the characteristic strength of a steel. Right. From this formula we can calculate what is the minimum area of tension reinforcement is, and already we have calculated what is the AST is. If the AST obtained should be greater than AS, means the obtained value should be greater than this minimum area of tension reinforcement. If not, if you are getting less than this, then provide what is the minimum reinforcement we have calculated with respect to this formula. That reinforcement we have provided for the design further steps, for moving the further steps. So this is a check regarding the minimum area of shear reinforcement. Then we have a check for maximum area of shear reinforcement. As for class number 26.5.1.1b of IS 456-2000, the maximum area of tension reinforcement shall not exceed 4% of BD, that is 0.04 times B into capital D. Here B is the width of the beam and D is the overall depth of the beam, and AST obtained should be less than this value. So AST less than 0.04 into BD, and if it is more, then revise the section and so that AST should be less than 0.04 into BD. If you are getting the value AST obtained value is more than that maximum value of tension reinforcement, Then again you have to revise the section, that means reducing the dimension, or and we'll do that reducing section, so that we can minimize the dimension of the section. From that you can automatically, you will get the AST will be less when we are comparing with the 4% of BD. So this is how we calculate maximum area of reinforcement. Finally, I will explain the check for minimum area of tension reinforcement and maximum area of tension reinforcement. Only for check for minimum area of tension reinforcement, that is AS, the obtained value of AST should be more than this AS, and for maximum value, the obtained value of AST should be less than 4% of gross cross sectional area. Right. Then go for spacing of the bars. Now here, for calculating spacing of the bars and number of steel bars required, here we have to choose suitable diameter of the bar. So number of bars can be calculated based on the diameter of bar. So number of bars equal to AST obtained in the previous calculation and area of one single bar, that is any particular diameter. Say for example, I have taken here diameter of bar assumed to be 10 mm, AST is 500 mm square. According to this, if I calculated, AST is 500 mm square, area of 10 mm bar is 78.5 mm square, number of bars required is AST by area of 1 bar, that is 500 by 78.5, I will get 6.35, and say I cannot provide the bars in terms of fractions, so I can round it out to next higher value. So say 7 number of 10 mm bars are provided, and spacing should be maintained as per the codal provisions which are given in IS 456-2000. Right. Next, this is another check. For it is important check for deflection. Here deflection check can be done. First we have to calculate what is the percentage of steel and how much percentage of steel you are providing. That can be calculated by using this formula, that is AST provided into 100 by BD. Right. What is the meaning of AST required and AST provided here? So simple, small difference here. Suppose in your earlier discussion here, say I got an actual number of bars required is 6.35. So according to that, the area of tension reinforcement required is say 500 mm square. But how much I am providing? 7 number of bars. So if I calculate AST with respect to this 7 number of bars of 10 mm dia, I will get the area more than this. So somewhere say 550 mm square or 560 mm square. That area, actually we are providing 7 number of bars instead of 6.35 required. So the area calculating with respect to this 7 number of bars is called a AST provided, and area calculated with respect to the actual 6.35 number of bars are called area required. So here we have to substitute area provided and AST provided into 100 by BD. According to that we can calculate as a PT percentages, that is percentage of steel. Then we have to calculate stress in steel under the service loads, that is FS, that can be calculated by using formula given in IS code. FS equal to 0.58 Fi into AST required by AST provided. Say this FS, based on the FS and PT values, we have to calculate a modification factor. That modification factor, say from this graph we can calculate. Say this graph also available in our IS 456-2000. On x-axis they has given percentage of tensile reinforcement, and y-axis they has given a modification factor. So based on obtained percentage of tensile reinforcement and obtained stress in steel under service load FS, the curves which are provided in the graph, based on that we have to calculate the modification factor. Say for example, so if you have obtained the percentage of steel, tensile steel is 0.8% and your FS obtained is say 240 Newton for mm square. Now I will take percentage of steel on x-axis here, and I will project this line onto 240 Newton for mm square curve of stress in steel under service load, and this value I will project onto my y-axis where I will get the modification factor. Say if I project like this, I will get a modification factor here, that is somewhere between say 0.8 to 1.2, more specifically say it is a 1 to 1.2, and this value we can calculate from this graph, the modification value, and how much to save. If your section to be safe against the deflection, then it should satisfy the criteria that L by D maximum should be greater than L by D provided. What is this L by D ratio? L by D ratio is based on the type of beam, and L by D can be calculated as IS 456 given that is based on the type of beam. Suppose you are calculating for a simply supported beam, that L by D value maximum is, that is 20. For cantilever beam it is 7. For continuous beam it is 26. Say for example, if you are getting say L by D max equal to basic value into KD. These 7, 20, 26 are called a basic values, and L by D maximum can be calculated by using this formula, basic value into KD. KD here is a modification factor. So for simply supported beam we are using basic value is 20, and KT obtained from this is based on the values of Fs and PT percentage. Say I got 1, say one value. Then basic value is equal to that L by D maximum is equal to basic value 20 multiplied by 1, that will be 20 max. But the provided L by D ratio should be less than that value. How to calculate the provided? Already we have calculated effective length of the beam, right? Effective length of the beam already we can calculate based on that what? Two criteria. If you are using simply supported beam, the two criteria, center to center distance between the supports, or otherwise clear spans per effective depth of the beam. A minimum of these two value considered as a effective length. So that effective length by effective depth ratio should be less than this L by D maximum. Then we can say our section obtained from this criteria, or whatever section we have chosen, that is safe from the deflection. So this is how we check again as the deflection. Right. Next, that is about what we discussed the first part, that is in limit state of collapse in flexural condition. Now we have to design our member with respect to shear also. Now we will consider limit set of collapse in shear. So here we have to design the shear reinforcement. The step number 13 is determine the ultimate shear force using support condition and type of loading. Yes, how we calculated ultimate load, that is maximum ultimate bending moment and ultimate load. Same in similar fashion we have to calculate what is the ultimate shear force. So again this will depends upon the type of condition and type of beam on which support is supporting. Say for example, first a cantilever beam is uniformly distributed loading condition. The maximum shear force occurs as a fixed support. As we know that for simply supported beam, for cantilever beam, that maximum shear force occurs where the supports, and that is VU maximum shear force can be calculated, or factored shear force can be calculated VU equal to WU into L. So WU is already known to you, that is factored load multiplied by the length of the beam, that will give the factored shear force or maximum shear force. And next step, simply supported beam with a uniformly distributed load, and you know the maximum shear force occurs at the supports, that will be VU equal to WL by 2. So these formulas you have to use accordingly type of beam you are designing. Suppose you are designing simply supported beam, then for calculating ultimate shear force you have to use this formula. This formula, that is VU equal to WL by 2. So after obtaining this VU, we have to calculate nominal shear stress, and this nominal shear stress value can be calculated by using IS 456 clause number 40.1 of 1. That is nominal shear stress tau V is equal to VU by BD. Already we have calculated VU, what is that factored shear force, and B is the width of the beam, and small d is the effective depth of the beam. Based on that we can calculate what is the nominal shear stress is. Right. Here for designing the shear reinforcement we have to check three conditions, that is the relation between tau V, tau C and tau C max. Tau V is the nominal shear stress, tau C max is the maximum shear stress in the concrete, and tau C is the design shear strength of a concrete. So here there are three important relationships that exist between these three. So those three, if you know the meaning of these three, then we can go for design. So the first condition is if the nominal shear stress is greater than the maximum shear stress value, then it is not adequate for providing any shear reinforcement. Generally in this situation we go for redesigning the member. So that means we have to modify our cross sections, that is B value, D value and AST values, we have to modify that, and then we can make sure that our tau V must be less than equal to tau C max. Then we go for the further step. Right. So according to step number 15 we can calculate the maximum shear stress. This maximum shear stress value depends upon the grade of concrete, According to table number 20 of IS 456 2000, they are given based on the grade of concrete what is the tau C max value is. For example, if you take M20 grade concrete, the tau C max will be 2.8 Newton for mm square. This obtained value must be checked or must be compared with the what is that nominal shear stress value. If your nominal shear stress value is less than tau C max, then we can proceed to further steps, or if greater than that, then we can redesign the section. So assume that say tau V is less than tau C max, then we go for the next step, that is calculation of percentage of steel. So percentage of steel can be calculated by using 100 AST by BD. AST is the area of steel required and are provided, and by B is the width of the beam, D is effective depth. By using this formula, we can calculate what the percentage of steel is. And next step is calculate the design strength. So this can be calculated from table number 19 of IS 456. Why should we calculate here? Say this value, the design strength, shear strength value must be greater than or less than. If any relation exists between these, then we can decide what to do. Suppose your tau V is say less than tau C, that is nominal shear stress is less than that design shear strength value of a concrete, then we'll provide nominal shear reinforcement. If the second condition, your tau C is less than tau V, then definitely we go for a design shear strength. So that's the reason why we have to calculate design shear strength of a concrete. That can be calculated from table number 19 of IS 456 2000. This is based on grade of concrete and percentage of steel. In last step we have calculated what is the percentage of steel is, and already we have decided what grade of concrete we have to use for design of this member. So suppose you have calculated the percentage of steel is 1 and grade of concrete used is M20, then the design shear strength can be calculated correspondingly this M20 and 1 percentage of steel and M20 grade of concrete. Obviously it will be 0.62 Newton for mm square. So the situation may occur, here we are getting direct values. You may get the percentage of steel not exactly what is mentioned in the table. Sometimes we get values between the 0.75 and 1. Then what to do? How to calculate design shear strength of a concrete? So you know that the shear strength value corresponding to 0.75%, and you know the shear strength value corresponding to 1%. Then you can interpolate the linear, if using linear interpolation technique, you can calculate what is the actual design shear strength of a concrete is. Then compare tau V and tau C, then decide if the tau C is greater than tau V, then we'll provide nominal shear reinforcement. There is no requirement of particularly designing of shear reinforcement. Minimum whatever we have according to the codal provisions, those shear reinforcement we have to provide. So the minimum shear reinforcement can be provided as per class 26.5.1.6 of IS 456 2000 is this. From this formula we can calculate, that is ASV by B into SV greater than or equal to 0.4 by 0.87 Fy. Here ASV is the total cross sectional area of stirrups legs effective in shear, SV is the spacing between the stirrups, B is the width of the beam, and Fy is the characteristic strength of a steel. Right. Then step number 19, design of shear reinforcement. When our design shear strength is less than nominal shear strength, then we go for actual, how much shear strength, which type of shear reinforcement is provided, and what is the spacing to be provided. That practically we have to calculate when we use when we have the relation between tau C and tau V. So according to class number 40.4 of IS 456, the design of bent up bars, as we know that we can provide the shear reinforcement in 3 different forms, that is, one is vertical stirrups, and second one is inclined stirrup, and third one is bent up bar along with a vertical stirrup. Say if you are providing a bent up bar, then we have to calculate shear resisting capacity of a bent up bar by using this formula, that is 0.87 Fy ASV into sin alpha. Sin alpha is the angle of bend. Generally we can take it as a 45 degrees. You know ASV is the area of a stirrup, and that is Fy is the yield strength of a steel. This is how we can calculate what is the strength of shear reinforcement, that is VUS. Right. According to the class number 40.4.c of IS 456 2000, the shear to be resisted by stirrups bent up bar is that is Vu minus tau C into Bd. What is this actually? Here Vu is a total shear to be resisted by the beam, that is including shear to be resisted by concrete and shear to be resisted by the steel stirrups. That is a combination of these two. But here in this class, particularly we are calculating what is the amount of shear to be resisted by the stirrups and bent up bars. That is VUS. That can be calculated by deducting the shear to be restricted by concrete alone from the total shear force of a member. That is VUS equal to Vu minus tau C into Bd. Right. After calculating this VUS value, whether you have to design the shear reinforcement for particularly for only vertical stirrups or inclined stirrups, or combination of bent up bar along with the vertical stirrup. Suppose you are designing for both combination of bent up bars and the stirrups. In this case, the 50% will be taken for the bent up bars, remaining 50% will be taken by the stirrups. So, in the obtained value of this 50% can be given to the bent up bars, and remaining 50% of a load shear to be resisted by the reinforcement. Based on that, we have to calculate what is the stirrup base or number of stirrups to be provided, what is the diameter of stirrup, what is the spacing of stirrups can be calculated based on the leftover 50% of the shear resisting capacity of a shear reinforcement. Right. If there is a vertical stirrup, then the shear resisting capacity of a vertical stirrup can be calculated by using this formula 0.87 Fy ASV by ASV into D by SV. And if inclined stirrup, that is Vu is equal to 0.87 Fy ASV by into D by SV into sin alpha plus cos alpha. Generally, this angle will be 45 degrees. That is given in code also. Right. The spacing of stirrups. How to provide the spacing of stirrups? The spacing of stirrups shall be provided as a list of the following. One is, I have a 3 criteria here. Spacing of stirrup to resist the shear strength, shear force. How much shear force has resisted by the shear reinforcing stirrups. And second one is spacing obtained from the minimum shear reinforcement, and the maximum spacing allowed. And between these two values, minimum of these two values we can take it as a 1. Among these 3 criteria, the minimum value of these criteria we can take it as a spacing to be provided for the stirrups. Right. Next, we have a addition to this, check for development length and simply supported for positive moment reinforcement. So, according to the clause number 26.2.3.3 of IS 456-2000, it must be satisfied this formula, that is calculated L by D, that is development length must be less than or equal to M by I by V plus L naught. So, Mi is the moment of resistance. Here, it is calculated when all the steels are provided or assumed to be attain its maximum value, that is all stress at up to 0.87 Fy, and V is the shear force value at the support, and L naught is the anchorage length. You know what is the anchorage means? So means the main bar should be inserted into the supports in the form of some bends or the hooks. That is called a anchorage. So this L naught value depend upon on which angle we are bending the bar and diameter of the bar. And as code has mentioned that this value can be taken as for every 45 degrees of bent of a bar taken 4 times length of this anchorage should be taken 4 times diameter of the bar. Suppose if we are bending this bar into 90 degrees, then the L naught can be taken as a 8 Phi. Phi is the diameter of bar here. Phi is 8 means each 45 degrees 4 Phi, and for 90 degrees we have a 245 degrees. So 2 into 4 Phi is 8 Phi. Like that we have to take. And for the U hook, I can say that is for maximum value of length can be taken as 16 Phi. Right. And here LD can be calculated by using this formula, that is 0.87 Fi Phi by 4 into tau BD. LD equal to development length. Fi is the characteristic strength of a steel. Phi is the diameter of bar. Tau BD is the design bond stress in limit state method. And this design bond stress can be calculated by using these codal provisions. That is, say the design bond stress limit state method of plain bars in tension as given like that. Based on this, you have to calculate this. And here the note also provided for deformed bars. These values may be increased by 60%. That means if you are using a Fe415 steel in this particular tension zone in the limit state method, then the value what we obtain as we are using M20 grade concrete, suppose we are getting M20, M1.2 with respect to this plain bars in tension. If I use a HYSD bar, this will be multiplied with a 60% more, that is 1.2 into 1.6. That will be the bond stress value in this corresponding HYSD bar in my tension zone. So these are the steps what you followed, what we have to follow for design of a singly reinforced beam. So let me summarize the steps. In first step we have to calculate what is the overall depth, then we have to calculate effective depth, then width of the beam. After calculating this we have to calculate all design loads, after the design bending moments, and from that we have to check limiting moment of resistance we have to calculate. By limiting moment of resistance, the maximum bending we have to calculate what is the required depth, and we have to compare the assumed depth and required depth. Then if your assumed depth is less than the required depth, greater than the required depth, then we can go with the assumed depth. And then we have to calculate area of steel, that is by using the formula mu equal to 0.87 Fi AST into D into 1 minus Fy AST by FCK into BD. From that formula or other formula given in your code book, from that you can calculate AST. So after obtaining that, we go for the check for minimum reinforcement and maximum reinforcement. Then minimum reinforcement means area AS, what we calculated, that area should, the obtained area should not be less than that particular area AS, that is called a minimum area of reinforcement. And maximum area of steel reinforcement cannot be exceed 4% of gross cross sectional area. Then we go for deflection check, that is based on percentage of steel and modification factor, and that FS, that is a safe load under service, that is stress under the service loads of a steel. According to that we have to check. Then we have to design the shear reinforcement. We have to calculate tau V, tau C and tau C max, and then we have to form the relation between these two, these three values. Then if required we go for shear design, if not we'll provide the nominal shear. After that we have to provide some space, what is the amount of spacing required, those things we have discussed. After calculating everything, we go for check the development length. By using that formula we have to calculate that M0 by Mi by V into plus L0 should be greater than the obtained development length value, so that we can say it is safe in the development length also. So these are the things we have discussed in today's class. So that's all for today's. Thank you.